Now, child mental health has been under the spotlight recently. According to the NHS, nearly 80,000 children suffer with depression, but only a quarter of those are getting treatment they need quickly enough. Shocking statistics, isn't it?
So what do you do if you think that this is your child and they have problems? Here to share their expertise are Childline Counsellor and Mental Health Charity Ambassador Anna Williamson and the paediatrician Dr. Ranj. And we're going to start with a phone call first of all. We've got Natasha on the line. Natasha, what have you got to tell us?
Hiya, my 4-year-old daughter, since she started school, September just gone, she's been having some very extreme tantrums, and she's also developed a terrible fear of germs, to the point where she washes her hands repeatedly up to the elbows several times. Every time she touches anything she considers dirty. She won't stroke our pet dog. Even if she touches the floor, anything she thinks is dirty, she has to go and wash her hands, and she gets very upset until she's washed and cleaned up. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to handle it. I don't know whether to...
It's an extreme reaction, isn't it? Especially from a 4-year-old. You're normally battling with them to wash their hands, not the other way around.
Quite, but this happened when she started school, is that right?
It did, yeah.
So, and just let us in on that. So she had sort of a lesson or something that was talking to her about
germs, about, washing hands after you've been to the toilet. I did ask the teacher, and she said it was just a very brief discussion, nothing major, but it seems to have really sunk in with me.
She's taken it very literally, obviously, hasn't she, Ranj?
I mean, what I would say with that is really work with her at the moment and ask her outright what she's scared of. It's important to understand how she has understood it, and actually how it's been manifested in her brain. Things, maybe reminding her how she was beforehand, before she had this little lecture on germs. It was okay when you stroked the dog last time. Nothing happened, did it? Nothing happened. Perhaps readdressing the balance as well with germs, that we can have good germs, we can have bad germs, and actually germs are really good for us sometimes. And maybe try and help demonstrate that. Maybe get some reading material on that and some pictures and things to perhaps help her with that.
You've probably got a song about it, Ranj, haven't you?
Would you like to do one?
We've got lots of songs about germs, but Anna is absolutely right. You've got to kind of put her experience into perspective. It almost sounds like she's almost had this overreaction, and there might be an underlying anxiety there. And people worry about things like obsessive compulsive disorder, particularly when you're, got this preoccupation with washing and cleanliness and not being dirty. If it is very, very difficult to manage, it's worthwhile speaking to your GP. It might be useful to get something like a CAMS assessment, which is a child and adolescent mental health assessment, to see whether there is something that they can do to help. But there's lots of stuff online, there's lots of charities online that might be able to give you, useful little tips and pointers. But as Anna said, maybe try that sort of graded approach, reintroduce her to the concept of what germs are, that they're not harmful.
And I think what Anna said, Natasha, is that she didn't have a problem with the dog before. You stroked the dog and nothing happened. She didn't get sick. There were no germy monsters. And because obviously you don't know what's going on inside a 4-year-old's head, do you?
At 4, it's scary, isn't it? I mean, if there was a picture of a germ or something, it can be quite a frightening thing.
And talk about good germs, like you said.
Natasha, I know you're going to take all that on board. Got to say goodbye to you because we've got people queuing up on the
Thanks,
telephone.
Natasha. Good luck with that.
Yeah, good luck. Give her a hug.
And we've got Rosie here, and Rosie, you have a 7-year-old boy.
Yes.
And what's the problem?
I've got a 7-year-old son who has always been quite a shy and sensitive child. But last year he had someone that was very close to him that died. And since then he won't actually let me in particular leave him alone. Me and my husband, we actually can't go out because he won't let anybody else babysit or stay with him. If I go out and my husband is here with him, he has a major meltdown and insists that when I come back, whatever the time is, I must wake him up and let him know that I'm back. He won't, if a friend asks him round to tea or to go to a party, he won't go unless I'm with him. And also in the summer we had problems with him talking about he never wants to be a grown-up because grown-ups have to deal with hard stuff and have to die. And I'm kind of just a bit struggling with it, just don't know how to help him and how to help him.
You can understand why, can't you, Rosie? You can understand why he's feeling all of that. It's just, what does she do?
He's scared.
This young boy has got, issues with anxiety underlying all of this, and it seems like it's been triggered off by this quite significant life event that he's had. And anxiety can present itself in various different ways, but when it's bad, it can be disabling. And you almost have to deal with it quickly and deal with it in the right way to make sure it doesn't get out of hand. Now, there's lots of things that you can do. There's lots of places you can go for help. Again, there's always your doctor, and there's always, you know, that child and adolescent mental health service whose job it is to look into these things of severe anxiety and see if they can offer you some help. There might be some counselling support.
I was going to say, what about grief counselling? Yeah. Because that is very effective,
this
isn't
is it? You know,
at seven.
Absolutely. But the anxiety, you know, has been caused by a loss, you know, and loss is a huge thing. And certainly at the age of 7, it's such a developmental age as well. I want to ask him what he's scared of. I think you need to really open up the conversation with him about loss.
I did actually have a conversation with him a few weeks ago and said to him, what are you scared of? And he did actually say he's terrified that I'm going to leave him as well.
Of course he is, and that's such a natural reaction, and you're doing the right things by reassuring him, you know, lots of hugs, lots of cuddles with the reassurance. Also look at your support network as well, because it is a family thing. Perhaps reassure him that, yes, sometimes people do leave us and people do go, but who else is there? You know, who else is there to support and help? And one thing we were just talking about earlier on as well is trying to get a handle on his bereavement and on his loss, how he has actually understood that process. Does he understand what happened? And we use, you know, memory boxes, don't we, to try and to try and sort of celebrate and try and look at things. Actually, they move forward, and it's okay to remember and move forward.
He has got a memory box. We did make one of them with him after this person died.
Has it helped?
He has got that.
Has it helped at all?
I think it probably did initially. It may be that we need to kind of revisit it with him as well.
And would you consider counselling with him, Rosie?
I would absolutely consider counselling, and I have tried and sourced that for him via school nurses, etc. And we kind of hit a brick wall with it. We kind of got referred, and then we kind of didn't hear any more. And lots of people have said to me to try GPs and whatever, but it's really difficult to know, do I take him with me to the GP? Do I go on my own and explain the situation to them? Or, you know, plus there's a bit of me that is like, am I overreacting, or am I right with my instinct to say this just isn't...
A mother's instinct's nearly always right.
Exactly. You're not overreacting. Keep pushing for help. There is a lot of help out there. Sometimes it can be quite difficult to get hold of. The other thing in relation to the memory box we were talking about, maybe do something called a worry box, where every night he puts his specific worries into that box and puts them away, and you do that with him, and keep that open dialogue going, that gentle conversation and reassuring him.
Very good.
Putting those worries away is a
Rosie,
really good way.
I hope there's something there that you can move the whole situation forward, and good luck to him. I hope things work out a bit better soon.
You do get through. Thank you. Yeah, you will get through it. You have to get through grief.
Ranj, I'm just noticing coming in an email this morning, there's quite a lot of stuff about self-harming. I often, you know, I've looked at my 4 children as they've grown up, and whatever goes on at school or educationally or things in their lives, I always look and I think, by and large, and I would say this to you about our son, is he happy? Does he look happy? And you can tell when they're happy. And against that, there are an awful lot of children out there who are so unhappy, they're resorting to this self-harming. What would you say if parents are going through this?
Look, one thing I would say is the term self-harm is so scary. It's frightening, and what's even more frightening is how common it is. It's like 1 in 12 16 to 25-year-olds will experience it. They
can bite themselves, they can cut themselves.
It's not just cutting, it might be biting, it might be burning, it might be hitting, pulling your hair out, overdose, substance abuse. It's lots of different ways. This is not an attention-seeking behaviour, OK? This is an expression of really difficult inner feelings, and they can't work out any other way of getting them out. It's not a case of, oh, they're just doing it for a bit of attention, it's a cry for help. It's not that, and it's not something that you can just switch off. This is something that you need to address, and we all, as a society, I think, need to address. Yeah, exactly. There's lots of support out there with regards to self-harm and young people, and I think it's all about accessing that and just going with it and bearing with it. This will take time to sort out, but it is a scary subject. It really is.
Yeah, it really is. And for the first time as well, it's now up there in the top 5 for under 13s with self-harm. Yeah, it really has, without sounding crass, become sort of really in vogue in schools. But as you say, there is always an underlying problem, and for parents, it's a horrible, scary thing to have to approach. But really keep those channels open of asking them.
You've been reiterating that message throughout our talk today. Sadly, we've come to the end of our time here, but the good thing is that Anna and Dr. Ranj Ranj have agreed to answer some more of your questions, and they'll take those on email in the hub, and another little room we've got set aside for that, and it's this morning at ITV.com, and if you get them in before midday today, that gives you about an hour.
Thank you for doing that, because we've had so many.
Pleasure.
Thank
Not
you.
enough time to get
great
through
response.
them. Thank you very much.
More information on the website as well about anything that we have discussed there, and we're back right after the break, so don't go away. Busy hub this morning. We're here with Stephen, and Dr. Ranj and Anna Williamson are here as well. But first of all, you, Stephen.
Well, honestly, I'm going to go back on this. At the top of the show, if you didn't see it, Eamon mentioned about how he met Ruth. So you've actually created a whole new item, which we weren't even going to do. Let's have a little look here about how you met. I met mine walking the dog.
Lots of Davina McCall met her lovely husband.
Because it's easy, isn't it? It's a nice start. Oh, yes. Lovely dog.
Yes.
Tell you.
Would you say it like that? No wonder you're single.
Lovely dog.
Lovely dog.
Right, what's this one here? This one is from Sue. Morning, Sue. She says, I met my husband in a charity shop. It's amazing what you can find in these places.
It only cost her 50p.
Also, going back on the mental health issue that you did cover earlier on, again, a big response about this as well from Kerry. First of all, I thought the portrayal of self-harm was extremely accurate and very sensitive. Thank you. Lucy Gosling says, round of applause to this one for actually addressing youngers with mental health issues. It's about time someone did.
80,000 children apparently suffering with depression. It was very shocking statistics. That's NHS statistics as well. So, you know, we might try and revisit that, because Ranj and Anna were talking about self-harming. It's such a huge problem now. So we'll maybe try and come back to that another time and do an item on it, rather than just touch on it in a phone-in. And thank you all very much.
So you're not talking, people are emailing in and you're conversing with them?
Yes, we are, and there's lots of different helplines, charities and places to go, and resources via this morning website as well. So if people want to get more advice on what we've been talking about, then they can go in there.
But also, I mentioned to you about, we were talking about anxiety and stuff. Remember when I said to you, Eamon, about, before I go live sometimes on things like Britain's Got More Talent, especially, the anxiety is intense. It's a terrible thing.
Yeah, it is a terrible thing, and you know I won't even shake hands with you before, because when you shake hands with Stephen prior to a programme, it goes like this. It goes like this.
Yeah, and also you'll lose your watch.
But you're getting better, aren't you?
Yeah, well, no, but seriously, look, you know, I don't suffer from, in terms of, I don't need any sort of tablets or stuff, but it's a very interesting thing that feeling is just horrible.
I used to get panic attacks. I actually had one on the BBC one morning, live on breakfast.
So what did you do? What happened?
I was doing the sports bulletin, and it went to what you would call overlay, so they were showing goals or whatever it is, and basically when I went back from the goal, I wasn't there because I was on the floor and hyperventilating, and I had to be brought to the hospital.
You can't breathe, and and it's overwhelming, isn't it? Because you can't control it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, also the girl that was pregnant on X Factor, you know, I think she said in the paper, you know, it wasn't about the baby. Yeah. It's because I had a panic attack.
Yeah, it's a fear.
Yeah.